types of signs, banners, and more, so you can make a big and bold.
Call the Chickasha City Council to order. Need a roll call, please.
Boyd?
Here.
Nelson?
Here.
Ginn? Here. Evelthwaite? Here. Alexander?
Here.
Burris?
Here.
Curtis?
Here.
Grayson?
Here. We'll have the opening prayer by Mr. Boyd and the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Nelson.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the ability to be in this chambers tonight. Lord, we ask that you would give us your mercy, your grace, and your truth as we administer the business here tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. Susan, we don't have any citizen comments? Okay. Move on to item 3, council communications. We do have a police officer's oath. We'll do that first, and then we'll open up the council. So, whenever you're ready.
If you just raise your right hand and repeat after me, please. I, Cody James Rideout, having been duly appointed as a police officer of the City of Chickasha, County of Grady, State of Oklahoma, do solemnly swear that I will defend, enforce, and obey the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, the State of Oklahoma, and the ordinances of the City of Chickasha. I will obey the lawful orders of my superior officers and the regulations of the City of Chickasha and the Police Department. That I will faithfully discharge my duties and responsibilities as a citizen of the United States. On my honor, I will never betray my badge, my integrity, my character, or the public trust. I will always have courage to hold myself and others accountable for our actions. This I do solemnly swear the 7th day of October, 2024. Congratulations.
I feel like we've been having quite a few of these lately, and it's great to see.
Yes.
Excellent.
All right. Council communications. Anybody have anything they want to talk about?
Spencer, I'd like to thank you for the hard work that you and your crew did at the park, fixing the area by the splash pad. It looks very good, as well as the center median on Highway 81. Thank you.
I want to say thank you to everybody that was involved over the, I think it's being dubbed the Rock Island Weekend, with the Rock Island Ride, the Rock Island Arts Festival, and the Food Truck Championship. But it was I was down there pretty much all day Saturday. It was an amazing turnout. I don't know what the actual numbers are. I'm sure we'll get that through Placer shortly, but it looked like all the way down, all the way to the Rock Island Arts Festival, down to the end of to First Street was jam-packed most of the day. And it seemed like people hung out a lot later than normal. I mean, I was there till about 9:30, 10 o'clock, and it was still bustling. So want to say thank you to everybody who made that happen. I know it was a good weekend for Chickasha.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
You will recall that the city submitted transportation alternative grant applications with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation. Their commissioners met today to vote on the list of approved projects. We submitted 2 applications, one to replace the footbridge at Shannon Springs Park and one to design and engineer a pedestrian bridge over the railroad in downtown. The railroad pedestrian bridge was approved in the projects, so we do have grant funding for the engineering phase of that project. The bridge at Shannon Springs, however, was not included in the final list. It made through a couple of rounds, but didn't make it through the final list that was approved by the ODOT commissioners today. So I wanted the council, public, of course, to be aware that that's where we are on those 2 projects. Now, we will pursue other funding opportunities for the bridge at Shannon Springs. We're always looking for grant funds from the federal or state government, private sources as well, but we'll continue to pursue that, but just wanted the council to be aware that it was not included on that final list.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have anything else?
I got a question. Did we ever find out who's responsible for the old 81 there north of, right by the railroad and 81? I guess it's old Highway 9, where it tees into 81 right south of the railroad on the north side. I'm trying to think the name of that oil field company that's right there on the south side. It used to be a lumber yard. And it's where everybody turns south of the railroad to go into the travel plaza. They turn in and they go to the industrial park, and concrete's busted up and a big old hole right in the middle of the road.
Oscar, that's former Highway 62.
Yeah.
I think it belongs to the city, unless why would it not?
Well, and I asked about it earlier, and just to see if we could get it filled in, because people are going on the bar ditch.
Just
to try to
rough.
Keith, do you have any information?
I
on
don't
that?
have a good, solid answer for you tonight, but I will certainly get that.
Mr. Mayor, do you have, right here, do we have an update on the, I think there's been an update on the fixed rate for the, I think we were looking at a loan for one of our fire trucks.
Yes, I asked Keith about that shortly before the meeting, and we haven't signed anything. Nothing's written in stone. They're still negotiating. Since the rates dropped, we're re-looking at that. But no, we haven't signed anything yet.
Where did the rates go? They went down a point or so, or?
I think it was a half point, I
Half
think,
point.
yeah.
I did visit Troy from Liberty, I'm sorry. And he just had told me that with how we just aren't going to put a rate in at this time as we expect them to go down. So basically what we're going to do, since we're out so far in receiving those trucks, we will do proposals again as we get about 6 months out from the trucks coming. We'll keep a close eye on it, though.
No, will that be proposals from just Liberty, or will we go back out to
We
everybody?
could go back out if we wanted to.
Okay.
Yes, yep. So, but there was no sense, he said, of trying to change it we'd be changing it probably
Yeah.
all the time. So, he's
That is
taking
true.
good care of us.
Yep.
Thank you.
Is the trucks ordered? Chief, did we get the trucks ordered? Because okay, just want to make sure, because those prices are going to go up if we don't, and that would cancel out any rate decrease.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Oscar asking about that road reminded me of something. Are we going to, when the work's complete on Country Club, are we going to look at those residential roads that were used as a bypass and see if we didn't make any repairs with the excess heavy loads that have been going through there, or?
We should, to make sure that they're up to standard.
Okay. I know there was at least one of the intersections that a couple citizens have mentioned to me that have been pretty beat up with the heavier, not really the traffic's the heavier trucks that were going through that were.
Yeah, just let us know where those are. We generally see those, but sometimes we miss things. But
And I drove by there Saturday. I don't know if is that still going on or is it wrapped up? Is it Country Club still closed? Country Club?
ask Jim that.
It's still closed.
Is it? I was gonna say, you live right there.
Yeah.
so Yeah. I drove out there Saturday and it
Several
was still,
times a day.
yeah.
Yeah.
Two lanes tomorrow to finish the actual lanes. Hopefully, we'll have the curbs in, and it'll be open by the end of the week.
Thank you. Also, sorry, I've got a list that I forgot to talk about. On the dog park, do we spray that for stickers at all? I had a citizen reach out to me and say that we had before and probably needs to be done again. They had a couple dogs this over the weekend get a few stickers in their paws.
We can bump up the number of sprays. Yeah, we can do that.
It's too
Okay,
late.
yeah, they just mentioned it to me, so I'm bringing it.
It's too
before
late to
everybody.
spray.
Well, yeah, this year.
Yeah, this year,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll need to do, probably need to do 2 applications next year. Just
Right. I
kind
would
of
say
plan on it.
a proper would be like 2 or 3 applications is typical for like a residential home. So it's just, we have so much property in the spray.
Yeah.
But I agree, like we just did Shannon Springs, for someone to spray it was like, $3,000-ish. So, and then if you start adding all the other parks and then you add applications, it just adds up really fast. But if you want us to spray the dog park, we can spray the dog park. So, yeah.
I think it'd probably be a good idea to do it at least one more time than what we're doing it, if feasible, if it's in the budget and stuff like that, obviously.
Right.
but-
No, I agree. I'd love to spray it more than as many times, like 2 or 3 times. Yeah.
Throw some fertilizer on it early in the spring, and that'll help keep the stickers at bay. Because that's what, sandburrs are a sign of low fertility in your soil.
Mr. Keith, since we were just talking about the Shannon Springs Park, have you guys got a plan to kind of shore up that bridge, through the holidays, kind of take a good look at it, make sure we can occupy it throughout the Festival of Lights?
Yeah, it's obviously past its expected useful life. It needs to be replaced, but it is safe enough for our holiday festival, so we can continue to decorate it and allow foot traffic across it.
Thanks for making sure on that.
Anything else? All right, item number 4, consent docket.
Move to approve.
Second?
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Nelson,
Yes.
Ginn,
Yes.
Hebblethwaite,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Burris,
Yes.
Gertis,
Yes.
Boyd,
Yes.
Grayson.
Yes. Item 6A, discussion, consideration, and possible action to approve strategic government resources agreement for recruiting services for the city manager.
We will recommend approving the agreement for recruiting services with SGR in an amount not to exceed $35,000.
Second?
Discussion?
Is there anybody here with that company today?
I don't believe so.
How did
This
we,
is the-
how
this
did we
is-
get affiliated with them? Was that by request?
Yes, it's the same group that we used last time that actually brought us Keith not the first time around, but brought us Keith
So
before.
we've used them in the past?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And they're able to go nationwide with the search. That's kind of what they focus on.
If a citizen wanted to know, is it the only way to do the process, or do we have a team enough to make our own hire?
We don't
Maybe, I
have,
don't know, Tracy, is that a question like
I
coming
don't,
your way or not, or?
I don't believe we have the scope to go nationwide with the search.
I don't think that we would have the resources for that. And then they also have a reach and a viable pool already of talent and people that they can contact. So we'd probably have a much better chance of getting more qualified applicants going through them, I feel. So I just think that that's probably the best direction to go for that.
It is the council's position to hire that position, is that right?
I'm sorry, Charlie?
Is it the council's position to hire the position of city manager?
Correct. We're the
Okay.
final say.
They will help you identify potential candidates, and they will go through a preliminary screening process to kind of weed out those who are either unqualified or have a background issue or some reason that they would not be qualified. They will narrow that down to a list of recommendations to bring to city council, and the council can review their resumes and background information to decide how many they want to bring in for in-person interviews, or the process, whether they do a video interview or some, like I said, in-person, and then ultimately the decision will be a vote of the city council.
I just see in their paperwork, and nobody's here with that company to answer these questions, but it seems like we're maybe, nowadays you'd say, oh, we're pressing the easy button. We're going to pay a lot of money to a group that's probably widely known and has a lot of talent and whatnot. But I feel like their methods are leaving the council out. Therefore, if they leave the council out, therefore they've left the citizens out of this selection process, bringing them kind of down to a group of who they would choose. You pick the handful that they like.
We have a couple council members that went through the process with them before. I mean, you can ask them if they feel the same way, but my opinion is, no, they help us narrow the field for what we're looking for. They do send out questionnaires for us to fill out to see what candidates we're looking for. And they, I mean, the process is pretty lengthy. It's not just a simple.
It's not just a quick,
Yeah.
here's 3 candidates and this is your only choice. I think last time, what we had, like 20 to go through, and then we
Narrowed it
narrowed
down.
it down from those 20 down to like 10 or so that we watched the video from. And then from there, we narrowed that down to what, 6 or so that we brought in?
Now, the process you're talking about, Charlie, they do come and we actually meet in person and talk about these things in executive session. So the company is here with us at that point to talk about the candidates and walk us through the process.
Okay. Real quick, probably staff knows, DISC is a 4-letter acronym listed here. I have no idea what that means.
It's a personality evaluation, right?
DISC
It's a management
personality
style
It's
assessment.
a,
evaluation.
most large companies and cities, you have to take a personality test in your pre-hire paperwork. That's just a form of it.
Thank goodness you didn't have to be mayor. You didn't have to take one.
So that opens up a lot of questions that I've had in the packet, if it's okay to go with those right now, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
Okay. Page 83, approach and methodology, project kickoff meeting. My question is, who's included on the kickoff? Is council involved in that?
What page would these?
I'm sorry, Charlie, what page did you say? 83.
Under their approach and methodology on page 83 of our packet.
I think you would be included in the stakeholder interviews and listening sessions. So probably during that project kickoff meeting and the anticipated timeline development, that would probably be with just the staff leadership. And then you would be included in the stakeholder interviews and listening sessions. And then I think very heavily included in every round of selection throughout that whole process after that.
Tracy, would you know the list of stakeholders? Is there stakeholders besides council that are involved in step 2 of number 1, or?
There will be, and we will put together that list when we have that initial project kickoff meeting. That's something that we will determine with SGR during that initial kickoff meeting, is what other stakeholders there may be.
I'm curious about who or what group that may be. And does the council that's gone through this before kind of remember how that goes?
That was city staff and us. It's not anybody outside the organization.
Okay.
I was going to say, I don't remember any outside.
It's management. When they speak of the organization, they're speaking of the city, or are they speaking of just council? Do we know that one?
I mean, they're hired by the city through council's permission, so I'm assuming the city itself.
Okay. Same group on the listening sessions?
I would assume, Charlie.
Okay.
That could be negotiated with them. If you would like to have citizens involved in a review process, that could be negotiated with SGR. But if you do want to limit it to city council members or a committee of city council members, you're welcome to do that as well.
And all of this, I'm sure, is more modern than me, but it looks like there's a handful of steps, and the fifth one is, oh, by step 5, we're going to look at a resume. Is that kind of the nowadays method of selection? You really don't even look at a resume till the 5th step?
I suspect you could get resumes as early in the process as you wanted, but in order to try to save you time of not having to review 50 or 100 resumes, that's really what you're hiring them to do, is to sort through the volume of
They
resumes.
assess the resumes in step 3.
Well, they're going to have parameters that they've already set, since this is what they do is place people in positions like this. They're going to know by people's qualifications whether they can do this job or whether they can't.
If I remember correctly, they ask us what we're looking for, right? And then they narrow it down, and then we go through the resumes then, right? Is that?
Yeah, I remember getting, like 8 or 10 resumes, and then we picked, as a group, top 5 we wanted to actually talk to. Yeah.
There's 5 or 6.
It's a long process. It's not.
Yeah, it's pretty detailed.
I have a couple of questions you might be able to help me with. I understand them leveraging their professional network and saving a lot of time and narrowing the candidates, but my question is we've done this before, we've spent a lot of money on it, and does it work? We have had quite a bit of turnover in the city manager division, so is this process working best for us? Would be my first question. How else you go about doing this, though? Like, have we reached out to OML for other, prospects? Will this prohibit somebody from in-house that's worked with the city from being able to submit their application? I mean, I saw in here, like, in the contract, they'll give 15 candidates or whatever, kind of narrow it down to 15, but then anything more than 15 you do, then you're paying extra for. And I understand the need for it. I understand the time saving, but I also am very result-driven with it, and I'm very leery of the results the success that we've had from it in the past.
And I believe OML is who recommends this service. And also that we had some local applications on the last time around, if I remember right. So it doesn't preclude anybody. And as far as results, we could take the blame on at least one of those. We made a poor choice in our hiring. I don't think that was necessarily their fault, because they did bring us the ultimate person that we ended up hiring after that person. So that's how you look at it, I guess. They can lead the horse to water, but they can't make us drink. So if we make a poor choice, we make a poor choice. That's not on them.
Well, not only that, they guarantee that or they did in the past, that the individual you select would be a good fit, and if he didn't last, what was it, a year or 18 months?
18 months.
That you didn't have to pay for their service.
It's a year this time. I think they'll go through the process again, it said.
I think it was a year last time, too. I think so.
OMAG and OML do suggest using SGR. I don't know that we would have the reach otherwise. And I think, honestly, just to be honest with this group, I think Chickasha has a reputation, and it would be hard to recruit in-state. When a manager leaves, it is definitely common knowledge among those groups of assistant city managers and city managers. And we really, I think it would be very challenging if we were to just post it on our website and try to find someone. SGR does have a really big following for any governmental employee. If you work in local governments, that's kind of a place you would go look online for a job posting. And I don't know, I think there may be like 1 or 2 others that are less popular. So they do kind of suggest using a search firm like this.
I think it worked for us very well last time, and just for the record, because it's almost like an elephant in the room, because on social media there were some comments about, well, what happened this time? What happened this time is Mr. Johnson had to make a personal decision for his family, on behalf of his family. And for some of the people that have made these comments, you know, it's really disheartening. I personally, and I think the mayor both will agree with me, I would move a mountain one pebble at a time to keep Mr. Johnson.
Yep.
Agreed.
Yep.
You've been a very good fit, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we appreciate you and wish you the best, but moving forward, we have to find a replacement.
Sure, you can't change your mind.
Trust me, I've tried.
There are moments.
I just want to make sure, I guess, that this isn't the only avenue, that if people are still, you know, and Rachel, I understand 100% what you're saying. I do hiring where I am as well, and understand it can be very challenging, but I'm almost to the point, like, I do want someone to understand what they're getting into when they come here, that it's not easy and you are going to meet, you know, some resistance, and that you're ready to, you know, be a force in that change. And I'm very, just like everybody, ready to, you know, excited to get somebody that understands what they're walking into, so that they don't come here and go, what have I walked into?
And that's the reach that SGR has, is they're going to find somebody that has that gumption to go, okay, I know there's maybe political turmoil and a lot of things going on, but they see it as a challenge to overcome versus something to stay away from. And like Rachel said, I don't think we organically have that reach to find that person.
Got a couple other things. Probably on the bottom of page 87, it mentions the candidate's preferred management style. And since we've gone through this recently, does the community, does council, does the city have an idea of what management style we're looking for? Or is this just some phraseology that is in their packet?
I think it'd be the temperament and the deliberative style, as Mr. Johnson has showed. It's going to be real close to that model, I think, to be able to have the fortitude and, I would say, patience.
I like it. I like it.
So that, I think it's going to be pretty close to the same model, I would think, or same, you know.
Okay. My next question involves media search, stage 1, media search, stage 2. And I just had a concern, and I've written in red with a question mark on each of them. Are we searching for social credit when we allow them to conduct those searches? It doesn't seem to be necessarily a background check, because that's listed separately. Do you guys remember, do you remember that process before?
They, if I remember right, they kind of look for red flags that may have been posted on social media, on any website.
News articles they're
News
affiliated
articles,
with.
yeah.
And basically giving us anything they're tied to give it, like, say something controversial happened in the city they were at 10 years ago. It's going to bring that to us so we can at least evaluate that when we're looking at them.
That's also how they recruit. They've reached out to me on LinkedIn about other jobs. They look at your LinkedIn, they Google you, they look at your personal accounts, and then if they find you to be a candidate, then they reach out to you directly through your LinkedIn, or if they don't find you to be a candidate, then obviously they wouldn't, and they would take you off the list internally for like a council.
Thank you.
Any more discussion?
I guess a quick question. So if someone just falls in our lap that's local, what do we, do we still pay the whole amount, or can we say we found someone local, we don't need your help anymore, or like what?
So like they didn't go through the SGR, they just
Yeah.
submitted through here and we
Right.
liked them and hired them? I wouldn't think so. Keith, do you know about that?
Yeah, I think once you've committed to the contract, you're obligated to pay the fee. And so
Right.
even if a local candidate applied, certainly they would, I guess, have to go through the same process. They would submit their application through SGR and go through the process that way, but there's certainly...
We wouldn't even accept applications then?
Yeah, you could certainly tell SGR, we found the person we're looking for, push this candidate through, and it's a decision of the council. It's not
Right.
SGR's decision. They do a lot of the legwork that staff doesn't have the capacity to do, or we don't have the resources, but at the end of the day, it's your decision.
Right.
Question for Keith, if you know, does SGR, the company, collect only their fees from the city that is looking for the applicant and not from the applicants themselves?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Well, you know, Keith was a recipient of all this and when vetting out, so he got a good knowledge of what they'll actually, how big a deep dive that they're going to do. So it's pretty thorough.
Yeah.
So
SGR's a very reputable company in this business of HR recruitment for executives in local government. They're well known throughout the country. They're not the only one, but in the Midwest, in this part of the country, they're recognized as top shelf.
So I'm hearing the job is important enough to spend the money.
I think so, Charlie, yeah.
Thank you.
And it's up to us to get it right, you know. We can spend all the money and have everything brought before us, and
we
it's
still
not an easy-
donate quite a bit of time.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
To the
it's all-
vetting
yeah.
process. They do one part, we do our part, and it's pretty lengthy, so.
We had, what, 5 or 6 different meetings
Yeah.
talking about this?
Yep.
When we had-
All-day interview, about
Yeah.
12 hours.
Yeah.
No, that was an all-day one.
Is that when we had the 5 or 6 of them come in and they traveled around? Yeah, I remember, yeah.
One last thing I had concerned about on it too was that it sounds like a lengthy process, that it will be at least, what did it say, 12 to 13 weeks? So I'm assuming that by the time we get somebody here, you'll unfortunately be gone by then. So the plan would be,
The city council could designate an acting city manager, an interim city manager, or divvy up the work here amongst yourselves. I think based on the way our organization is structured in the code, though, the acting city manager would be the appropriate designation during that time until you've identified a finalist. And it can take some time. I would say the 12 weeks would probably be the most optimistic, because not necessarily, but presumably if you hire a candidate who has the necessary credentials for the position, they're probably in a position where they have to give notice to their existing employer and work through their own transition. And that, again, can take some time. So.
And Keith and I have had this discussion, and we both feel very confident that we do have a great team in place to carry things on, even if it does extend past the time where Keith is no longer here. We have a great leadership team in place to continue the city's business till we can find the new city manager position. Because I don't want to be it for any amount of time.
so yeah, on the same lines of Georgianne, I'm very sad to see you go as well, Keith. And for the city employees, I think you're MVPs. I didn't realize until coming on council that the turnover had been so abundant. And so I recognize how difficult that must be. And so it's a priority and something that will be taken very serious to find best for you all.
And there are various options as far as interim or a consultant or something like that to help prop up the new city manager until they get their feet under them. There's a lot of options out there, which obviously they'd all be discussed. And if we chose to go that route, we can make that decision together. But there is support out there for times like this. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Gian?
Yes.
Hebblethwaite?
Yes.
Alexander?
Yes.
Burris?
Yes.
Gertis?
Yes.
Boyd?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Grayson?
Yes. Item 6B, discussion, consideration, and possible action to approve resolution number 2024-21R, a resolution of the mayor and council of the city of Chickasha, Grady County, state of Oklahoma, establishing a municipal court food for fines program from November 4th through November 22nd, 2024, during regular office hours.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2024-24R as presented.
Second.
Discussion?
Assuming we've done this in the past, and can anybody report to, has it had a lot of participation?
Chief, I don't know if you want to respond to the level of participation, but I just preliminarily, yes, we have done this before. It has been a good program. It does allow people an opportunity to have an option if they don't have the cash to reduce the amount of their municipal fines. And it gives us a little better connection to the community that way, but it also goes to a good cause of supporting the local food pantry. So we have done this in the past, and it's been reasonably successful. I don't have actual numbers of participants.
Regretfully, I have to ask, where is that food pantry? Which one is this? Just, I'm really not familiar where maybe it's moved in our community or how often it's open.
Mr. Burris, I believe it's the one off of Kansas. No, it's not.
Is it its own entity, or is it sponsored by a group?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, sir?
Is the Chickasha Emergency Food Pantry an entity, or is it sponsored by a group?
I have no idea. It's a nonprofit, but
Then it would be its own entity, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I'm curious where it's at and how available it is.
There are several food pantries sponsored by churches and other organizations. I'd have to do some more research to know specifically where this is going, but it's going to at least one of those.
Yeah, I don't know if there was one in town that was a daily option available or not. The one I'm most familiar with is only a monthly option, so.
Yeah, I'm not aware of a daily food pantry,
Okay.
but there are some that are open each week.
Thank you.
Keith, that information you can get for us and send it to us, please.
Yep.
Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Hebblethwaite?
Yes.
Alexander?
Yes.
Burris?
Yes.
Gertis?
Yes.
Boyd?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Gian?
Yes.
Grayson?
Yes. Item 6C, public hearing for closeout of CDBG Water System Improvement Project number 18608, CDBG-SC-22. And then I need to read this thing, right?
Please.
The public meeting notice was posted in compliance with the Open Meeting Act, and the following was stated by Mayor Grayson in the public hearing. The City of Chickasha was awarded a community development block grant through the Oklahoma Department of Commerce for improvements to the city's water system. All citizens within the target area benefited, with 52.87% of those being low to moderate income level. The community development block grant CDBG amount awarded was $195,000 $1,714 for the contract number 18608 CDBGSC22. The final inspection on the project was conducted by City's Public Works Director Scott Pond, P.E., Chisholm Trail Consulting, LLC. Do they have to, if they make a motion, they have to read all this too, or?
Just need to open the public
Oh,
hearing.
I'm sorry.
See if anybody
Yeah.
has anything to say.
It is 7:10. I'd like to go ahead and open the public hearing.
Mayor, what was this impacting the site? Was it over off Ada Scipio?
Let's see.
I think Jim Crosby can answer that.
Can you have him describe the benefited area?
All the work has been completed, and everything's working great. I think the water lines have, and new fire hydrants and the valves have all been in place and been finished for about 45 to 60 days.
Jim, what part of town was it on?
What part of town?
It is the east side of town between Missouri and Ada Scipio and east of 4th Street.
Is that what you're asking, Kelly?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I thought it was. Just making sure.
Anybody else? It is 7:12. I'll go ahead and close public hearing. Item 6D, discussion, consideration, and possible action to approve or accept Resolution 2024-26R, closing out the CDBG Water System Improvement Project number 18608, CDBG SC22.
I move we accept Resolution 2024-26R as presented.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Alexander,
Yes.
Burris,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Boyd,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Ginn,
Yes.
Ebelthwaite,
Yes.
Grayson.
Yes. Item 6E, discussion, consideration, and possible action to authorize staff to renew coverage for general liability, property, and auto insurance coverage.
Move to authorize staff to renew the current policies with OMAG for general liability, property, and auto insurance coverage.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Burris,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Boyd,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Ginn,
Yes.
Ebelthwaite,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Grayson.
Yes. Item 6F, discussion, consideration, and possible action to approve the master service agreement and task order 1 with Messick and Associates for Chickasha Flood Mitigation Project COC-2404.
Make a motion that we approve the master service agreement and task order 1 with Meshek and Associates for the Chickasha Flood Mitigation Project COC-2404.
Second.
Discussion? And their representatives are here if we have questions for them.
Fabulous. How much do we have in our account that we apparently have an offset to the first grant portion, the 25%?
Yeah, our match is 25%, and the
And it
BRIC
mentions,
grant is hopefully going to provide the rest. And that comes from some money that we already have set aside for flood and drainage projects.
is that amount discussable, or do we know the account of that matter? Is that,
I probably have to defer to Edward to,
would we know the purpose of that account
yes.
wholly, or was it set aside only for this type of a matter? You know the label of that account?
The oil and gas money is specifically by ordinance required to be used for streets, drainage, and I think it reads infrastructure. I'm sorry if I got that wrong, but I know it's streets and drainage exactly. And those are the only things by ordinance it's allowed to be used for. So that's where the drainage money comes from. If that's what you're asking, I'm sorry, I missed part of the question.
If we use it in this way, is it going to deplete that account, or are we have a pretty good balance there?
I don't think we have a balance off the top of our heads, so I don't.
Thank you.
We are also not in a position where we're looking to deplete the account. We are looking to use HMGP funds, and I can let Meshach speak to that here in a second. But we have allocated a line item or funding source for this project to get us through task 1 and into task 2. It's also just a match of it's reimbursable through the BRIC for the second portion of it, and then HMGP covers most of the cost for the first portion of it. And the amount that we've allocated towards the project is far supersedes what we're expected to pay in the end.
Any more discussion?
Is Meshach presenting?
If we have questions for him, you can ask.
Okay. Or the community. Is it important to our community and council and the citizens that we want to follow the Justice 40 initiative?
I can let Meshach give you a kind of a rundown on exactly why they're here today and how the Justice 40 initiative plays a role in some of the process that they have, if that's what you're looking for, sir. Is that what you're looking for?
How is that of importance to our community
So
to have the
would you
Justice
like to-
40
would you like to speak?
initiative?
I'll go ahead and introduce. This is Allison. She is from Meshach, and she'll explain to you how Justice 40, but also the purpose behind them being here today.
Hi. So the Justice 40 initiative is points included in your application when we do the BRIC application for the competitive part next year. Justice 40 represents socially underserved, vulnerable populations in your community. So it's highlighting where those communities are and how this project would benefit them in the end.
So if I heard you right, following part of that just increases our points towards the project.
Yeah, in most of the new grant applications that are done through FEMA and or FMA, showing where those populations are and how you help them and how you fill those gaps is part of the points process in your application. And also just in general, you have to talk about where those people are and how you're serving them.
So it's really identifying underserved portions of our population?
Yeah, underserved and socially vulnerable populations,
Okay.
yes.
Has there been, do we have council members present that were able to see the 2021 master drainage study?
Yes.
How are you feeling about how this would fall in line with the recommendations of that study?
We've had multiple studies. I sat through one prior to being on council, and I think I'm looking forward to us actually putting plans in action. We've like 4 or 5 studies, and this is our first step in a positive way of actually carrying through the plans.
If I remember right, it could give us more usable land as for businesses, residential, because it would take land out of the floodplains.
Well, it'll take areas out of the community that are currently in floodplain out.
Right.
Which, I've had several citizens come to me and they want to remodel their house, especially on the east side, but they can't because they have to get a flood certificate or they're in a flood zone, and this will effectively help them get out of that, which will make it easier for them to do things to their property they want to do.
And it should lower insurance, I would think, on that?
Right.
We actually have an engineer here from MESHAC that kind of give you a kind of an overview on how that works, what their idea is.
Yeah, I think the discussion is definitely valid. The main purpose of the mitigation projects is to remove structures that are already in the floodplain in these high flood risk areas. It will also provide additional areas for either new developments or substantial improvements to structures that you're talking about that are in the current floodplain.
Are structures allowed to be homes, people's family?
Yes.
Do you carry the right of eminent domain?
So, could you repeat that, please?
When you negotiate with them, will you be carrying the right of eminent domain?
Yes, all additional properties that require some kind of easements or actual full acquisitions. The primary purpose of this project is for that to be in negotiation with the property owners. And eminent domain is not an intention of the project. It very rarely gets to that point. And we don't foresee that being used for this project.
We have a lot of worthy families and homeowners that are not professional in their negotiating skills.
FEMA
and they're an
requires,
important part of our community.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And it's hard to unleash by voting for something that's going to let them have to deal with these matters unless they really can find somebody to come alongside them and help them. I feel like they could end up losers. And there's nothing more special than home. Everybody that is blessed with a home knows that.
I think the concern there is absolutely valid, but one of FEMA's requirements, anytime they have a project dealing with federal dollars that include acquisition or even acquiring additional easements, they require that that property owner is properly represented with professional services. And so in order to mitigate that concern that you're bringing up there. So that hopefully that won't be a concern at all, either from the actual project or the perception of that project.
I appreciate you speaking on that, even though you're an engineer, not a lawyer. So thank you for trying to tackle that question.
It seems like there's one portion, Mr. Mayor. I don't have all the numbers where it looks like they maybe said we'd go ahead and ramp up our number to what a finished out city would be like to up the matter of potential damages to help us get to a higher rating. And I think that might just not be true. If we've got only agriculture land that has overflow, why would we in this study go ahead and move the values up to something commensurate with, oh, if it was totally built out? We're really not even being honest with the agency that we're trying to apply to here.
Just for clarification, is your concern that since we are spending dollars on upstream detention facilities that may be west of town, that the property values will only increase west of town and not in town? Is that the concern?
No, I had it in my mind that part of the study would say, well, here's how it actually is, but we're going to go ahead and mark up our parameters to, well, how much real damage would it be if that area was already built out? And then that was going to be what we wrote down in our application. And I just wrote, we're not modeling honestly if that's the case, but I could be very misinformed on that.
How do you guys model that, what he's asking? I mean, is there an algorithm you use, or is there a standard practice that is used across the nation that you guys follow, or?
Yes, that's a great question. So there are computer simulations that we develop using a couple of very standard programs. For those familiar, HEC-RAS and HEC-HMS, which the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers developed those. And so what those do is tell us the exact flow rates and what those flow rates do in terms of elevation and velocity. And so all of that is simulated. That tells us the elevations relative to all of the buildings in the floodplain. And so if we have buildings that have several feet of water or less in any range, we can calculate the damages associated. And then once the project is also modeled and we see the after effects of the floodplain, those are your benefits. So whatever the flood was reduced to, there's an economic value associated with that. All of that gets calculated using a variety of computer programs.
And since you've done this type of thing before, this is standard practice, accepted practice, how to do it?
Yes, that's right. Yep.
So I guess the phraseology is fully urbanized flow rates will be utilized to run the analysis. And I may be confusing that with, well, let's calculate it on what our actual flow rates are.
So FEMA does require existing conditions flows. Many times we do run fully urbanized conditions flows where the city anticipates future development so that we can design these features like the detention ponds and channels for that future development. But you are correct in saying that the application should be based on existing land conditions. That's what FEMA requires, and that's what we will do.
So a simple-minded councilman that's worried about the citizens and their home and their property could see that, oh my gosh, in one area of town, we may have the weight of a government forcing you out with eminent domain or negotiating you out to the benefit of somebody that's going, yeah, now I can develop my land. And is that a trade-off that we're willing to make for our citizens?
I guess I'm not following that logic, Charlie.
Regardless of how high the water gets, a home is a home. And somebody owns that property in America that they still have the right to own it. And if we're going to vote for something to hire a company that seems like a bunch of great professionals, and that's wonderful, who are going to interact with the federal government, we may have subjected our citizens in a certain area to a lot of negotiations and a lot of stress about losing their home, in turn to help increase value to somebody's raw land. And that's a hard decision to make.
So at what stage would we be addressing what Councilman Burris is talking about?
I think based on the Stormwater Master Plan from 2021 that you guys already have, the projects identified and where the construction is taking place is primarily west of town in the county where it's fairly rural. Looking through that plan, I did not see any locations where there's homes or businesses that would require full acquisition and removal of those structures for this project to be successful. What's going to make this project successful primarily is upstream regional detention ponds, which will require construction of berms, but won't require the removal of structures. The locations of those, we still need to determine exactly, but we don't anticipate the removal of existing businesses or homes for this project.
So basically, you're just building ponds upstream to hold the water, to keep it from hitting Line Creek. And then that will keep north side of town here from having to put 3-foot berms. Every time they want to build a house, they got to bring it in 3 feet just to build a house. Or if they're going to do a remodel, they have to raise their house 3 feet to stay out of the flood. But what they're proposing is to build a pond on somebody's property to slow that down. Correct?
That's generally correct, and I will clarify that in addition to ponds, we also need to look at how to improve the channel conveyance that may require replacing some of our undersized bridges and culverts, as well as opening up that channel space. Berming may also be an option on the table, but we're going to look and prioritize every option that doesn't require acquisitions. Acquisitions is always the last resort, and voluntary acquisitions would be the primary method, and again, we don't anticipate using eminent domain.
But this doesn't actually do the construction. This is just the engineering side.
So this task order gets us to a application for FEMA. It does not get us to construction. That would be a separate task order.
Okay.
Now, is that where your firm is getting your fee, is basically from the grants, right?
Yes, so we estimate the fee, and then our fees are included in what you will be reimbursed from your local federal match.
Would there be a time where MESHEC could, if you get to your acquisition phase, let's say you actually get there where you have to discuss acquisitions, would that be something that you could bring to us for discussion?
Yes, absolutely, and there will be, in fact, there will be public meetings periodically along the design process, And the exact properties that we're looking at will be made known to you as the council and also the public, and then there can be a discussion at that time for potential tweaks to the design.
Thank you.
Could we limit it to just voluntary forfeiture of their property only in our decision?
I would say ideally, yes. Unfortunately, we just don't have the detail to know where the key features of the designs are going to be. I think that is probably a question once we're further along the process.
That's why I asked about the acquisition phase before we actually get to that sticky part. We sit down and actually have a conversation about that.
Well, apparently the city may be already aware of the places that this would affect through the study
Not aware,
of
yeah.
2021. Is that not part of that was known of the 2021? Was it a master flood plan?
I don't think the 2021 study told you where to put a retention pond or a berm.
Okay.
It did say where we could widen out streams within the city that the city already owns on Line Creek, like you could, cut them. And basically what it does is allow the water when it comes up to spread out and utilize more of the volume. And then when it goes back into its banks. So it did point those features out in that study, but as far as upstream, where to put a detention pond, not really. It just said, I think one of them, and that was more on Congo Creek, it was up there by Sleepy Hollow, where it's a lot of trees and stuff growing. They said that area was a good area for a detention pond. Right. If that was on Congo Creek, not on Line Creek. And that was about it.
Had any of the recommendations of the 2021 plan been followed through to check off the box that maybe we've had anything, any task, even a little task?
And honestly, I think that's why we're here today. The recommendations from the 2021 survey, they're great recommendations, but if we're looking for ways to fund the actual construction of these designs, we needed to go outside of our city's budget, and that's where we looked at BRIC grants, HMGP, and some other grants that may be available at FMA. And so the only reason why we're even in this room today is because we saw an opportunity with the BRIC grant that we may be able to have get some federal funding that can execute the plan design from 2021. But in order to do that, we also need to make sure that that design is modern, is using all the technologies that have been developed since 2021 up until today. And they take into account some of the multi-purpose goals of some of the engineered designs, is also the community of Chickasha and where it is today. And so with them being approved to take the 2021 design, they're not recreating it, they're just boosting it up and getting it more prepared for the BRIC application, which is a competitive application nationwide. And so that we have the ability to get those funds and also look for other ways to fund it if that doesn't work out. But the designs that you're looking at in 2021, they're not structured for 2025. They're not set up for a BRIC grant. They're not set up for the federal government to help us fund that. And that is the reason why we have NESHAC here and their engineers, is to prep us up so that we can get the rubrics of the BRIC grant and the community needs incorporated into that design so that we can fund the actual design instead of just studying it again.
I assume this will be permanent easements of the federal government?
City of Chickasha.
City of Chickasha, that's right.
Including just non-structure areas that maybe a watershed has changed because of the structure?
For new easements? So
Yeah, if a new structure were to change how flow happens upstream, are those people without structures going to be expected to have an easement, and then now their property is limited on what they can do with it?
New easements should only be required where construction is needed for the project, not where the flow is necessarily going, but where we need to actually construct infrastructure to control that flow. The main areas that's going to be located would be the upstream detention ponds, Obviously, you can't just build a pond and not have some kind of easement or the full property to allow that water to back up and fill up. So that's where we anticipate most of the easements happening. Outside of that, it may require widening some of your existing easements along the channel and possibly some streets. But I think that's more or less the extent of what we expect.
Thank you.
So your easements would be similar to the Conservation District easements on their watersheds?
Similar to NRCS, dam retention structures.
Yeah, the Conservation District.
I think that's the current expectation, yes.
Okay.
Is there a deadline this needs to be turned in?
Yes. Allison, FEMA's deadline in 2025. Do you remember the December 1st, 2025 for the break application?
And NOI is earlier, notice of intent. We're looking at potential August of 2025 to have the intent put in so that they know that we're planning on pushing this in, and then December 1st, we will have the package ready to roll. Award, or February 1 of 2026 is when we know whether or not we're players, and then it's awarded that summer of 2026.
Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Burris,
No.
Boyd,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Ginn,
Yes.
Hebblethwaite,
Yes.
I think you missed
Alexander?
Curtis.
Yes.
Burris,
No.
Oh,
Gertis, you missed Gertis.
Curtis did.
I mean-
You didn't call Curtis.
Curtis, I'm
Did you
sorry.
say Gertis first?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Sounded like burst.
I'm sorry.
that's
So
okay. So
where do we need to be? Me?
I'm.
You've got mine.
Yeah, I got yours now.
I'm sorry.
So Curtis.
Yes.
Yes. We good, Susan?
I'm just tired.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you. 6G, discussion, consideration, and possible action to authorize the disbursement of the Central Business District Building Grant for 117 North Second Street for applicant Hanautics, Inc., DBA Luigi's, in the amount of $124,750.
Make a motion that we authorize the disbursement of Central Business District Building Grant for 117 North Second Street for applicant Hanautics, Inc., DBA Luigi's, in the amount of $124,750.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Boyd,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Ginn,
Yes.
Hebblethwaite,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Burris,
Yes.
Gertis,
Yes.
Grayson.
Yes. Item 7, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We're adjourned. Said it right before I hit it. I'd like to call the Chickasha Municipal Authority to order, please. Need a roll call.
Boyd,
Here.
Nelson,
Here.
Ginn,
Here.
Hebblethwaite,
Here.
Alexander,
Here.
Burris,
Here.
Gertis,
Here.
Grayson.
Here. Item 2, consent docket.
Move that we accept as presented.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Nelson,
Yes.
Ginn,
Yes.
Hebblethwaite,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Burris,
Abstain.
Gertis,
Yes.
Boyd,
Yes.
Grayson.
Yes. Item 4A, discussion, consideration, and possible action to authorize staff to solicit RFQs for CMA 2406, management service for the operation of the water treatment plant, wastewater plant, industrial pretreatment program.
Make a motion that we authorize staff to solicit RFQs for CMA-2406, management services for the operation of water treatment plant, wastewater plant, industrial pretreatment program.
Second.
Discussion. packet was backwards. I had a question, but now I can't remember it.
Yeah, so is the current company's contract up? Is it the 5 years? Is that why we're doing this? or-
It expires, I believe, June 30th of next year, but
Okay.
because of the lead time necessary to interview potential candidates, we're doing this now.
And this is just reflective to the current plant. We're not talking about the proposed new plant, right?
That's correct.
Any more discussion?
Could you repeat what you said?
I just wanted to make sure we're not talking about the new plant, that they're not going to carry over to that one, that this is, we're just talking about our current one.
Okay. Okay. I'll make sure I caught that.
Roll call, please.
Ken,
Yes.
Hebblethwaite,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Burks,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Boyd,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Grayson.
Yes. Item 4B, discussion, consideration, and possible action to authorize second, or two-inch overlay type B asphalt from 29th Street to Grand to Country Club for an amount not to exceed $152,473.25 as per interlocal agreement with Grady County District Number 3.
Motion to authorize number 2 Type B asphalt overlay beginning at 29th and Grand, following Norge Road and ending at Country Club Road for an amount not to exceed $152,473.25 per interlocal agreement with Grady County District 3.
Second.
Discussion? Can't forget that 25 cent. Roll call, please.
Hebblethwaite,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Burris,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Boyd,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Grayson.
Yes. Item 5, motion for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
We're adjourned. I'd like to call the Chickasha Municipal Airport Authority to order. Need a roll call, please.
Boyd,
Here.
Nelson,
Here.
Ken,
Here.
Hebblethwaite,
Here.
Alexander,
Here.
Burris,
Here.
Curtis,
Here.
Grayson.
Here. Item 2, consent docket.
Move we accept the consent docket as presented.
Second?
Discussion. Roll call.
Boyd,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Hebblethwaite,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Burris,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Grayson.
Yes. Item 4, motion for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.